This is the first video lecture for Week 2, Module 2. And I just wanted to begin with a few words on kind of my basic philosophy on life, death, grief, loss. That's really influenced my counseling style and my writing style in this class. And I also want to encourage you, I'm also going to try to upload just an audio file to this week. So it won't have a video, so you won't get to see this excellent face. But so just sit back and listen to that audio file. It's an introduction to my theory of regret to terror management theory. And we were invited to speak at a conference in Vancouver, the International Conference on Meaning. It's an existential international conference. And there are a lot of different lectures on death anxiety. And I had just written an article on the Grateful Dead and this whole urban legend, and started a theory on terror management. But you'll get to listen to that lecture as well. But right now, let me talk just a little bit about my foundational theories, thoughts, beliefs about grief and loss. And a lot of them are linked to something a lot of you commented on, and it's that quote. There were two things. One was, why do we need to experience death and grief and loss? And the first response last week was really about if we just lived forever, life wouldn't have an urgency. So time, the concept of time, and presence. Let me talk a little bit about time and the value of life. And I don't believe that life has more meaning or more value if an individual lives longer. Life is just as valuable if it is very short in time span, or if there is great longevity that time span. Because if we think about meaning isn't some end goal, who can live the longest. Meaning is a continuous experience of the present and how we affect others. What meaning not only do we gain for ourselves, but what meaning can we provide for others? How can we help them along this journey? How can we be present for them? How can we love them? All of those things. And really, perhaps one of the most meaningful things might have only been a fleeting moment in somebody's life. So I don't see time as adding to meaning. But let's talk a little bit about concept of time and present. And a lot of that has to do with a book I referenced in my little discussion today on Tuesdays with Maury. And it's a book by existentialist philosopher. He's a Jewish philosopher named Martin Buber, and he wrote a classic book called I and Thou. And today it would just be called Me and You. And what is it about experiential relationships that adds meaning to life? And a lot of times Early existentialists held the point of view that's known as nihilism, well, life is meaningless. And I don't really buy into that aspect of existentialism. I really subscribe to later existentialists that really say, well, we have to find our meaning, or we have to make our meaning, or experience meaning, discover meaning in our own lives. And that's really what's important. So when Martin Buber started talking about I and thou, he believed that there were three I and thou relationships. And the first I and thou relationship is our relationship with this world. And he really gave the example of nature and the natural world and all that is around us. And I can share an existential moment that I've shared in the theories class before, but it's applicable here. And I remember that I used to spend weeks, I think I probably drove my parents crazy. I wouldn't let my kids do this, but when I was very young, maybe 12 or 13, I would just spend weeks on the Appalachian Trail or hiking around the mountains around central Pennsylvania. And one time, I was just after a rain, and I was in a campground, and I was sitting in a lean-to or a tent. There's a fog or a mist around the remains of a drenched campfire. And everything was very quiet except for the dripping water. And just looking out at the scene, and a large buck just wandered out into my campground. He was very close to me. And he stopped and he realized that I was there, and he made eye contact with me. We just were there looking at each other, and realized I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to hurt him. And for that moment in time, I felt a connection not only with that animal, but with all of nature, like I was a part of. And that's what Martin Buber's talking about, that I and thou experience with nature. So that's kind of an existential moment. And Martin Buber's second type of I and thou experience would be if we believe, and I'm open to everybody's belief system, and I'm not judgmental in any way. But if you believe that there is some type of higher power or creator, or if you have some type of spirituality, whatever that might be, it would be your connection with something greater than yourself. Whatever that might be. And his third thing, his experience of I and thou, would be experience of another human being. An I-thou experience with another being. And at one point in his book, he said, there is no me without a you. There is no I without a thou. If I was alone, how would I grow? How would I experience awareness if it was not through our experience in relationship to other? So as counselors, I believe that this is very important. If I go into a session with an individual and I'm thinking about what was happening before that session, if I had a crisis, or if I was worried about something in the past, or if I was worried about what I was going to do after the session, then I wouldn't be in the present with that individual. And that's really my connection with time, to be present, to be mindful, to experience other fully. In order to experience another person fully, We can't be in the past and we can't be in the future. We have to be in the present. We can only experience the presence of other on all different levels if we are present in the moment, if we are mindful in that moment, in the present. And that's often very difficult to do. So I'm constantly reminding myself to come back to the present, to be mindful of the present experience. And oftentimes, clients, human beings, rarely experience somebody's full attention, somebody's full presence. And that is a meaningful experience, and they're not used to it. And it's a very empathic experience. It incorporates all of Rogers' basic conditions: unconditional positive regard and acceptance, empathy, and genuineness and authenticity. As a result of being fully present, then I think that I grow as much from that experience of other as that other person gains an experience of me. This also leads to a greater kind of concept of time. Some people believe that after life there is nothing, and that's fine. That atheism or kind of a finality is often comforting, and that's a valid belief system. And but if other people believe that there is something after life, something that might be eternity, that can be scary as well. Sort of a forever. Wow, forever is a long time. An hour, a minute can be a long time. So my own conception of time is that when we are present, when we are living in the present, when we are present for somebody else, when we are experiencing another's presence, then we lose track of time because we're living in the now. So if there is such a thing as eternity, it wouldn't be a forever. It'd be a constant now. And that connects directly with my understanding of meaning in life, and that life isn't about how long we live. It's about how we live and the meaning another person has for us. Whether I've experienced that other person's presence for a minute or for a lifetime. Okay,